Well, hey there, guys. The subject for today is bottles, as if you could not figure it out from the description. The title. Basically, oh, look at that. I found a bottle. What? You don't think it looks like a bottle? Oh, look. A completely worthless bottle filled with red potion. Red potion. So yeah, bottles. I actually love bottles in the Zelda series. The empty bottles are actually, practically my favorite item. In fact, it's to the point where, some people complain about, the Poe side quest in, Ocarina of Time, where you have to collect all those big Poes, and then it's like, oh, all you got was, the reward was, a bottle. But you know what, actually, they always say, that's the most worthless item you could possibly get for such a hard side quest. That wasn't enough. Same with, the Goron side quest in the Minish Cap. But you know what the thing is for me? To me, the bottle is the coolest and most valuable item. So I only agree with them in that it's really hard to get the bottle, but the bottle is the best possible reward for them to give me. So I don't feel that way at all. I'm totally nuts that way. I just thought the bottles were great and hilarious and fun to use. And it's great how in some games are treated as really valuable objects, but in other games, even though they're bottles, but in other games, they're really valuable to you, but then everyone else treats them like junk. You literally find them as garbage sometimes that people threw away. So anyway, but on to the main point. Yeah, this wasn't going to be just a joke video, guys. Basically, I want to talk about, how the bottles have, what they add to the series, in particular, how they basically serve as RPG items. They actually add more depth than you realize. In a lot of games, you just pick up health items, the hearts. You just run around and grab them. You can increase your maximum health, like you can do with the heart pieces and heart containers. But, the thing is the bottles, the bottles, they're, the way that they're like containers, and you can put all kinds of stuff in them, it's kind of cool because instead of just getting these items, there's an extra element to it. And, basically, I think one advantage it really has is that it's more like, some of the games have just had, really basic stuff. Red potion, green potion, blue potion. Occasionally they fold up with alternate kinds, but then they'll have, the fairies, and that's it. But, other games, I'm particularly thinking of Twilight Princess and the Minish Cap, have actually taken more advantage of the bottles. In Twilight Princess, you basically, you had the lantern oil, and you had the bait for fishing, and, and then the fairies actually had less, healing power than in some of the other games. So ultimately, you weren't just running around grabbing fairies, there was a legitimate reason to go use the other potions and such, and you also had to lug around the lantern oil and bait if you wanted to go fishing. So there was this much more strategic element to running around and getting the items and what you wanted to store, what you had room for. And in the Minish Cap, I think they actually took it further technically. The milk was there, but it wasn't very powerful. It had 2 heals, but it was a little different than in, Ocarina of Time, where it heals quite a lot of health. And then of course, it had the same thing going on with the fairies that Twilight Princess did. Then it had the Pickle Light, which were these little items that I guess added, they made it more likely you'd pick up other items. They were lucky charms you could carry around. Those were great. And then they had the charms, or they actually are called charms, but they're unrelated kinds of charms, where basically they increase your defense, your attack power, or both. They're temporary status boosting items. And this is where you get in my point, why it's called RPG items in the title. Because there's a lot with that kind of thing, they could really expand the potential, and it's just so much of a deeper experience. You can collect all these items. Now, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks didn't have bottles, but they still had 2 inventory spaces you could store potions in. But all the potions were basically just healing items, just some of them healed more than others. So in terms of the bottled items, Phantom Hourglass is basically not what I'm talking about, but the idea of not having the bottles, but just having the inventory spaces, is basically the same premise. You don't need to, you don't need to have the bottles to still have the element of collecting these items with limited space to store them. And, And basically, I think that, they could do that, though I think it'd be a good idea if you had a way of expanding them. My idea is to actually have way more bottles. Majora's Mask had 6, but, you could even have 8. Maybe 4 bottles, or inventory spaces, whatever you prefer, can be, gotten really early, and they're just really basic, you just run into them. And then another 4 that are harder to find. And ultimately, you have a lot of items, and there's this very strategic element, and it adds a lot of depth to the game in using the stores, which I've complained about the game's not using enough. And you basically have all these kinds of items. Some would maybe even attack the enemies, or have these alternate effects, just all these kinds of things. And you're constantly managing your inventory. It would be a very cool aspect, I think. And, people who I guess lobby for RPG elements, they'll be more satisfied, but it wouldn't really change the game as much. It would just add a lot of depth. It'd be great. Uh-oh. I gotta get a refill. Alright, I'm back. Okay, so I guess I made my point on that. Basically, in the future, I'd like them to do that. I'd like them to have more bottles. I'd like them to have more items, and really expand on this system. I think it's a great concept that adds a lot more, value to the game and value to the stuff. I mean, you could have the magic meter so you use a lot more magic, and have a lot of magic using items, so you're using it up, and you have to have the green potions. Have healing items that have a variety of healing effects instead of just these full heal items, which could still be there but very expensive and rare. Just stuff like that. What do you guys think about the bottles? What's your favorite game as far as the bottles are concerned? Do you even care about the bottles like I do? Am I nuts? What? Tell me in the comments. And later, guys.